Hello, and welcome to Circularity 21. My name is Lauren Phipps. I'm the Director and Senior Analyst on the Circular Economy at GreenBiz, and I have the great pleasure of serving as your host on the main stage for the next 3 days. I am so excited you're here. You meaning the thousands of practitioners and thought leaders working across industries and roles, and here meaning from the comfort of your own homes or offices in 97 countries around the world. I do wish you could all be here sitting on this couch with me in Oakland, but what this community may lack in physical togetherness at this moment, we far make up for in scale and in might. Whether you've been defining and building the circular economy for decades or you're brand new to the conversation and community, we're here because of you. You are taking on some of the most important and complex problems of our time. We're here this week to share our ideas and learn from one another to advance our work, to ensure our company's success as they shift towards circular models. We're here to build connections that will help us stay aligned, sustained, and sufficiently ambitious. We're here to accelerate the circular economy. As you well know, community plus materials, design, business models, and policy, these are all necessary threads in the fabric of this transition from linear to circular. But there's another ingredient, sometimes missing from the work. So before I offer some context on what to expect over the next 3 days at Circularity, I want to take a moment to talk about just that, context. Context is the difference between a theoretically circular product and a real circular system. And I believe that context is the most important and often unacknowledged accelerator of this transition to a circular economy. Let me explain. Imagine the most perfectly designed circular product. Maybe it's a laptop made from renewable and recycled materials. It's designed to be modular and durable and made to be repaired, disassembled, and recycled once it's reached the end of its useful life. Now, despite this product's perfect circular potential, more often than not, as things are today, that laptop will soon end up as e-waste and contribute to the world's fastest growing waste stream. Yes, design is the place to begin, but context is everything else it takes to ensure good intentions translate into meaningful impact. It's the marketing and storytelling that will encourage a consumer to engage in repair. It's the reverse logistics, analytics, and technology to ensure the laptop is kept at its highest and best use for as long as possible. Context is what makes it possible for value to continually cycle, waste and pollution to be designed out, and planetary boundaries not just to be respected, but living systems regenerated. It's the difference between looking internally and seeing just yourself, your business, or your product, and zooming out to see the larger backdrop of how it fits into the system around you. Consider another example of plastics recycling. Yes, any material could theoretically be recycled, but there is a significant gap between this optimistic theory and practice. And the US recycling rate still hovers around 33% on a good day. Context is this gap between independent recyclability claims and collective action. Now, as you know, when it comes to plastics, there is a lot of context to consider, and we will address numerous of these considerations in sessions this week. The need for more robust and intelligent recycling infrastructure, to standardize materials and labels, and to design out unnecessary single-use items, as well as dozens of other topics. And all circularity is local. Building a circular economy for plastics or any material relies heavily on social, economic, or cultural context, whether that's expanding rural access to recycling in the US or partnering with waste collector communities around the world. To embrace context is to embrace the dynamic tension between scale and specific on-the-ground realities. Now, this is true whether you work in electronics, apparel, packaging, consumer goods, or any other industry. The circular economy is the opportunity, and frankly the responsibility, to recognize the interconnectedness of people, our stuff, and the planet. You might miss something if your focus is too narrow. And if you look too closely, you'll miss the bigger picture. We are here this week to look up and to celebrate the richness of our context. Circularity is an invitation to see ourselves within a bigger system. the circular economy is about not only thinking in systems, but acting in them. So we are gathered this week at Circularity to gain perspective and then do something with it. Because the stakes are simply too high to rest on vague ambitions or far-off goals. A community of practice like this one holds itself accountable for going far enough, fast enough. For mitigating climate change, preserving biodiversity, addressing business risk, increasing prosperity, and advancing justice, all while making a profit. I can't wait to get into it. Over the next 3 days, you'll hear from 176 speakers across 75 sessions, a mix of keynotes, breakouts, and interactive discussions where you will join the discussion and connect with fellow attendees. But you don't need to wait to participate. I invite you to actively use the chat throughout. Start now. Introduce yourselves, where you're joining in from, and a word or phrase to capture why you're here. I want to thank our sponsors for supporting this year's conference and making Circularity possible this year. And I also want to thank our community of partners and friends that have generously shared their time, perspective, and networks to grow our community. We are so grateful. So on behalf of myself and the GreenBiz team, welcome to Circularity. We have just 1 hour on stage each day, so let's dive right in. To start Circularity off right with a healthy dose of planetary perspective, I am so pleased to introduce one of my favorite people. He is an Animal Planet host, an astrobiofuturist, and an Imagineer. Here to talk about living in the intertidal zone, please welcome Billy Allman.